The rain hammered against the window of the small London flat. Marcus Wells sat at his kitchen table, staring at the brown envelope in front of him. His hands were shaking. Inside that envelope was something that could destroy one of the most powerful families in the world. And Marcus knew that once he opened it, there was no going back. He had been a royal guard for 12 years. 12 years of silence. 12 years of watching, listening, and keeping secrets that weren't his to keep. But this secret was different. This one burned in his chest like a fire that refused to go out. Marcus reached for the envelope. The paper felt heavy in his hands. Heavier than it should. He thought about his daughter, Emma. She was 7 years old, with bright eyes and a laugh that could light up any room. This decision wasn't just about him anymore. It was about the world she would grow up in, a world where the truth mattered. Before we go any further, if you love real stories that hit deep, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens next. 3 weeks earlier, Marcus had been on night duty at one of the royal residences. It was a quiet evening. Most of the family was away. The hallways were empty, lit only by the soft glow of antique lamps. Marcus walked his usual route, his footsteps echoing on the marble floors. That's when he heard voices. Low, urgent voices, coming from behind a closed door. He stopped. He wasn't supposed to listen. That was the first rule of being a guard. See nothing. Hear nothing. Say nothing. But something about the tone made him pause. One voice belonged to a senior aide. The other voice was unmistakable. It was Prince Andrew. Marcus stepped closer. His heart pounded in his chest. He could hear fragments of the conversation. Words like photograph, payment, and cover-up drifted through the heavy wooden door. Then he heard something that made his blood run cold. If this gets out, it's over for all of us. Marcus felt his stomach twist. He had heard rumors before, whispers among the staff, stories that seemed too dark to be true. But this wasn't a rumor. This was real. And it was happening right in front of him. He moved away from the door as quietly as he could. His mind raced. What had he just heard? And more importantly, what was he supposed to do about it? The next morning, Marcus arrived for his shift early. He needed to clear his head. But when he walked into the staff room, the atmosphere was different. Tense. 2 men in dark suits were standing near the supervisor's desk. They weren't guards. They weren't staff. Marcus had never seen them before. One of them looked directly at him. A cold, measuring stare. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He nodded politely and kept walking, but his instincts screamed at him. Something was very wrong. Later that day, Marcus was called into a private office. The same 2 men were there, along with his supervisor. They asked him questions. Routine questions, they said, about his duties, about his rounds, about what he had seen the night before. Marcus answered carefully. He didn't mention the voices. He didn't mention the door, but he could tell they were watching him, studying every word, every movement. When the meeting ended, one of the men smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Thank you for your cooperation, Mr. Wells. We trust you understand the importance of discretion. Marcus nodded. But as he left the room, his hands were shaking again. They knew. Somehow, they knew he had been there. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in his mind. The voices behind the door, the men in suits, the warning disguised as gratitude. He thought about quitting, just walking away and pretending none of this had ever happened. But then his phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. No words, just a photograph. Marcus sat up, his heart hammering in his chest. The photo showed him standing outside that closed door. The timestamp was from the night before. Someone had been watching him. Someone had been recording. The message was clear. They knew exactly what he had heard, and they wanted him to know that they were watching. Marcus deleted the text immediately. His hands trembled as he set the phone down. He felt trapped. If he stayed silent, he would be complicit in whatever was being hidden. But if he spoke up, he risked everything. His job, his safety, his family. The next few days passed in a fog. Marcus went through his duties like a robot. He smiled when he was supposed to smile. He stood where he was supposed to stand. But inside, he was crumbling. Then something unexpected happened. During a shift change, one of the older guards pulled Marcus's aside. His name was James, a veteran who had worked at the palace for over 20 years. James looked around to make sure no one was listening, then leaned in close. "Be careful, Marcus," he whispered. "You're not the first to hear things you shouldn't. The others who did. They're not here anymore." Marcus felt a chill run through him. "What do you mean?" James shook his head. "Just trust me. If you value your life, keep your head down and forget what you heard." Then he walked away, leaving Marcus standing alone in the corridor. That night, Marcus made a decision. He couldn't stay silent, but he also couldn't go public without proof. So he started digging. Quietly. Carefully. He accessed old duty logs, looking for patterns. He talked to other guards, asking casual questions that seemed innocent. And slowly, piece by piece, he began to see the bigger picture. There had been others. Guards who had been reassigned suddenly, staff members who had left without explanation, people who had seen too much or asked too many questions. And every single one of them had disappeared from royal service without a trace. Marcus felt sick. This wasn't just about one conversation. This was a system. A machine designed to protect the family at any cost. And anyone who threatened that machine was removed. But Marcus also found something else. A name. A journalist named Sarah Chen, who had been investigating the royal family for years. She was known for her fearless reporting and her refusal to back down, even under pressure. If anyone could help him, it was her. Marcus knew reaching out to her was dangerous. But he also knew he couldn't do this alone. So one evening, he created a new email address using a public computer at a library. He typed a short message. No details. Just enough to get her attention. "I have information about Prince Andrew. Information the palace is trying to bury. If you want the truth, meet me." He hit send before he could change his mind. Then he deleted the account and walked out of the library, feeling like he had just crossed a line he could never uncross. 2 days later, Marcus received a response. It came through a secure messaging app that Sarah had set up. The message was brief. "Tomorrow, 3 p.m., Regent's Park, near the Rose Garden. Come alone." Marcus read the message 3 times. His heart raced. This was really happening. He was really doing this. The next day felt like the longest day of his life. Marcus went to work, finished his shift, and tried to act normal. But inside, every nerve in his body was on fire. At 2:30 p.m., he changed into civilian clothes and headed toward Regent's Park. The park was crowded. Families with children, couples holding hands, people walking dogs. Marcus scanned the area, looking for anyone who seemed out of place. Anyone who might be following him near the Rose Garden. He saw a woman sitting on a bench. She was in her 30s, wearing a dark coat and sunglasses. She looked up as Marcus approached, and he knew immediately it was her. Sarah Chen didn't smile. She didn't introduce herself. She just gestured for him to sit down. "You have 5 minutes," she said quietly. "Tell me what you know." Marcus sat down, his mouth dry. He had rehearsed this moment in his head 100 times, but now that it was happening, the words felt stuck in his throat. 3 weeks ago, he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was on night duty. I heard a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. Prince Andrew was talking to his senior aide. They were discussing a photograph and a payment, a cover-up. And then he said something that made my blood run cold. He said if it got out, it would be over for all of them." Sarah didn't react. She just listened, her face unreadable behind the sunglasses. Marcus continued. "The next day, 2 men in suits questioned me. They knew I had been near that room. They warned me about discretion. Then I got a message, a photo of me outside the door with a time stamp. They were watching me." Sarah leaned back slightly. "Do you still have the message?" Marcus shook his head. "I deleted it. I was scared." "What else?" I started looking into other guards, other staff members, people who had seen things, heard things. They all disappeared. Reassigned, fired, or just gone. And no one talks about them. It's like they never existed. For the first time, Sarah's expression changed. Flicker of something. Interest. Maybe even belief. "Can you get me proof?" she asked. "Documents, recordings, anything." Marcus hesitated. "I don't know, security is tight. If they catch me, they'll destroy you," Sarah finished. "I know, but without proof, this is just hearsay. And hearsay won't take down a prince." Marcus felt the weight of her words settle over him like a heavy blanket. He knew she was right, but the thought of going back in there, of deliberately searching for evidence, terrified him. Sarah stood up. "Think about it. If you decide to move forward, contact me." "But Marcus," she paused, looking directly at him. "Once you start down this path, there's no turning back. It will come for you. They will use everything they have to discredit you, to silence you. You need to be absolutely sure this is what you want." Then she walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Marcus sat on the bench for a long time after she left. People passed by, laughing, talking, living their normal lives. And here he was, holding a secret that could shatter one of the most famous families in the world. He thought about his daughter again. Emma, her innocent smile, her trust in the world. What kind of man did he want to be in her eyes? Someone who looked away when he saw something wrong? Or someone who stood up, even when it was dangerous? That night, Marcus made his decision. He was going to get the proof, whatever it took. Over the next week, Marcus became a different person. On the surface, he was the same dutiful guard, polite, efficient, invisible. But underneath, he was hunting. He memorized the locations of security cameras. He noted the times when certain areas were unmonitored. He studied the schedules of the senior staff and learned when offices would be empty. And then, one evening, an opportunity presented itself. Marcus was assigned to a late shift in the administrative wing, the place where records were kept, personnel files, security logs, communication archives. His supervisor handed him the keys and told him to do a final sweep before locking up. Marcus nodded, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might burst out of his chest. He waited until the building was empty. The silence was deafening. Every footstep echoed. Every breath sounded too loud. Marcus made his way to the records room, his hands trembling as he unlocked the door. Inside, rows of filing cabinets lined the walls. Marcus pulled out his phone and turned on the flashlight. He didn't have much time, maybe 20 minutes before someone might notice. He started with personnel files. He found the records of guards who had been dismissed or transferred. There were at least 7 in the past 3 years. All of them had left suddenly. No explanations. No warnings. Marcus took photos of each file. Then he moved to the communication logs. This was more difficult. The logs were coded, cross-referenced with dates and locations. 8. Marcus scanned through them quickly, looking for anything related to Prince Andrew or the dates around that conversation. And then he found it. A memo, marked confidential. It was from the senior aide Marcus had heard that night. The subject line read, "Containment Protocol, Incident Report." Marcus's hands shook as he read. The memo detailed a photograph that had surfaced. A compromising photograph involving Prince Andrew. The memo outlined steps taken to secure the image, to pay off the source, and to ensure no further copies existed. It also listed potential security risks, people who might have knowledge of the situation. Marcus's name was on that list. He took photos of every page. His heart raced. This was it. This was the proof Sarah needed. Proof that the palace had actively covered up something serious. Proof that they were tracking anyone who might expose them. But then Marcus heard something that made his blood freeze. Footsteps. Someone was coming down the hallway. Marcus moved fast. He shoved his phone into his pocket, closed the filing cabinet as quietly as he could, and slipped toward the door. The footsteps were getting closer. Heavy, deliberate. Not the casual walk of a janitor. This was someone who knew where they were going. Marcus turned off his flashlight and pressed himself against the wall. Just inside the doorway, his heart hammered so loud he was sure whoever was out there could hear it. The footsteps stopped. Right outside the records room, Marcus held his breath. Seconds stretched into what felt like hours. Then the footsteps continued down the hall, fading into the distance. Marcus exhaled slowly, his entire body shaking. He waited another full minute before moving. Then he slipped out of the room, locked the door behind him, and made his way back to the main corridor. He finished his rounds as if nothing had happened, but his mind was racing. He had the evidence. Now he just needed to get it to Sarah, but Marcus knew he couldn't contact her from his phone. Not anymore. They were watching him, monitoring him. He needed to be smarter, more careful. The next morning, Marcus called in sick to work. It was the first time he had missed a shift in 5 years. He took Emma to school, kissed her goodbye, and then headed to a different part of the city. Somewhere far from his usual routine, he found an internet cafe in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where people minded their own business. Paid cash, sat at a computer in the back corner, and logged into the secure messaging app. He uploaded the photos, every single one, the personnel files, the memo, the list with his name on it. Then he typed a short message. This is what they're hiding. This is why they're scared. What do we do now? He hit send and logged out. He left the cafe and walked for miles, trying to calm his nerves, trying to process what he had just done. That evening, Sarah responded, "Meet me tomorrow. Same place." 11 a.m. This changes everything. Marcus barely slept that night. When he did drift off, he had nightmares. Men in dark suits, cameras everywhere. His daughter crying, asking where he had gone. He woke up in a cold sweat just before dawn. He checked his phone. No messages, no missed calls. But he felt like he was being watched. It's like the walls had eyes. At 10:30 a.m., Marcus left his flat. He took a different route this time, doubling back several times to make sure no one was following. The city felt different now. Every person on the street looked suspicious. Every car that slowed down made his pulse spike. When he reached Regent's Park, Sarah was already there. She was sitting on the same bench. But this time she looked different. Tense, alert. She stood up as Marcus approached and gestured for him to follow her. They walked deeper into the park, away from the main paths. "The documents are explosive," Sarah said quietly. "If we publish this, it will be the biggest royal scandal in decades. But you need to understand what's going to happen. The palace will launch a full-scale attack on your credibility. We'll dig into your past, your finances, your relationships. They'll paint you as a disgruntled employee, a liar, maybe even unstable. Are you ready for that?" Marcus swallowed hard. "I don't have a choice anymore. They already know I'm a threat. If I back down now, I'm finished anyway." There's something else. I've been contacted by someone inside the palace. Someone who claims they want to help. They say there's more evidence, more people involved. But it's a risk. It could be a trap. Marcus felt his stomach drop. "What do you think?" "I think we need to be very careful. But I also think this is bigger than one memo. If there's a source willing to talk, we need to hear what they have to say." That night, Marcus received another message. This time it was from Sarah's contact. The message was cryptic. "Thursday, midnight. Underground car park. Level 3. Waterloo Station. Come alone. Tell no one." Every instinct told him this was a trap. He was walking into something he wouldn't walk out of. But he also knew that if there was more evidence, if there were others willing to speak up, this could be his only chance. On Thursday, Marcus told Emma he loved her more times than he could count. He held her tight before putting her to bed, memorizing the feel of her small arms around his neck. He didn't tell his ex-wife where he was going. Didn't tell anyone. At 11:45 p.m., Marcus stood at the entrance to the Waterloo car park. The street was empty, silent. He took a deep breath and walked inside. The car park smelled like oil and concrete. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting strange shadows. Marcus took the stairs to level 3, his footsteps echoing in the emptiness. When he reached the 3rd level, he saw a figure standing near a black sedan. A woman. She was older, maybe. In her 50s, wearing a long coat and a scarf that covered most of her face, Marcus approached slowly. "Are you the one who contacted Sarah?" The woman nodded. "I've worked in the palace for 22 years. I've seen things. Terrible things. I can't stay silent anymore." Her voice shook. "Prince Andrew isn't the only one. There are others, powerful people, and the palace has been protecting them for decades." She reached into her coat and pulled out a USB drive. "Everything is on here. Names, dates, payments, photographs. But you need to be careful. If they find out I gave you this, they'll destroy me. They'll destroy both of us." Marcus took the USB drive, his hands trembling. "Why now? Why are you coming forward?" The woman's eyes filled with tears. "Because I have a granddaughter. And I can't look at her knowing I stayed silent, knowing I let this continue." Before Marcus could respond, they heard it. The sound of car engines. Multiple cars, coming fast. Headlights flooded the car park from both ends. The woman's face went white. "Run," she whispered. "Run now." Didn't think. He just moved. He shoved the USB drive into his jacket pocket and sprinted toward the emergency exit. Behind him, he heard car doors slamming, voices shouting. Footsteps pounding on concrete. Marcus burst through the exit door and into the stairwell. He took the stairs 3 at a time, his lungs burning. He could hear them behind him, getting closer. He reached the ground level and pushed through another door into the street. The cold night air hit his face. He ran. He didn't know where he was going. He just ran behind him. The footsteps continued. But Marcus knew these streets. He had grown up in London. He ducked into an alley, then another, weaving through the maze of back streets. He jumped over fences, squeezed through narrow passages. His chest felt like it was going to explode, but he didn't stop. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the footsteps faded. Marcus collapsed behind a dumpster, gasping for air. His whole body shook. He waited there for 20 minutes, listening, watching, making sure they were gone. When he was sure it was safe, Marcus pulled out his phone. His hands were still trembling. He sent Sarah a message. "It's worse than we thought. I have more evidence. But they know. They were waiting for us. I barely got out." Sarah's response came quickly. "Are you safe?" "For now. But I can't go home. They'll be watching. Go to this address." She sent him a location. "It's safe. I'll meet you there in 2 hours." Marcus made his way across the city on foot, staying off main roads, avoiding cameras. The address led him to a small hotel in a quiet neighborhood. Sarah was already there, waiting in the lobby. She led him to a room on the 3rd floor. Inside, a man was setting up a laptop. Sarah introduced him as David, her editor, the man who would help them verify the evidence and prepare the story for publication. Marcus pulled out the USB drive and handed it to David. "The woman who gave me this said it contains everything. Names, dates, photographs, evidence of a cover-up that goes back decades." David plugged in the drive. The 3 of them watched in silence as files began to appear on the screen. Dozens of them, hundreds. David opened the first document. It was a payment record. Large sums of money transferred to unnamed accounts. The dates corresponded with several high-profile incidents involving members of the royal family. Incidents that had been buried or explained away. The next file was a photograph. Marcus felt his stomach turn. It showed Prince Andrew at a private gathering. The people around him were young, too young. The timestamp on the photo was from 15 years ago. Sarah leaned forward. "This is bigger than I thought. This isn't just about Andrew. This is about a system of protection that's been in place for decades." David kept scrolling. More documents, more photographs, more evidence of payments, cover-ups, and silenced victims. It was overwhelming, horrifying, and undeniable. "We need to verify all of this," David said quietly. "Cross-reference the payment. Records authenticate the photographs. Reach out to potential witnesses. This is going to take time." Sarah looked at Marcus. "You can't go back to your life. Not now. They'll be looking for you. And when this story breaks, everything will change." Marcus thought about Emma, his little girl. He wouldn't be able to see her. Not for a while. maybe not for a long time. The thought broke his heart, but he knew this was the right thing, the only thing. Over the next 3 days, Marcus stayed in the hotel room while Sarah and David worked around the clock. They contacted experts to authenticate the documents. They reached out to former palace employees who confirmed details. They built an airtight case, and then, on the 4th day, Sarah's phone rang. She answered, listened for a moment, and then her face went pale. "What is it?" Marcus asked. Sarah hung up. "The woman who gave you the USB drive? She's dead. They're calling it suicide." Marcus felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. No, that's not possible. She was fine. She was brave. She wouldn't. They killed her, Sarah said flatly. They killed her to send a message. It's to us. To anyone else who might think about coming forward. The room fell silent. Marcus felt rage building in his chest. This woman had risked everything to do the right thing, and they had murdered her for it. "We publish," Marcus said, his voice hard. "We publish everything, right now. We don't wait. If we wait, they'll find a way to stop us." David shook his head. "We need more time. Need to make sure everything is verified. There is no more time," Marcus shouted. "They just killed someone. How many more people have to die before we act?" Sarah put a hand on his shoulder. "Marcus, I know you're angry. I'm angry too. But if we rush this, if we make even one mistake, they'll tear the entire story apart. We'll lose all credibility. Her death will have been for nothing." Marcus closed his eyes. He knew she was right, but the waiting was killing him. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay on the hotel bed staring at the ceiling, just thinking about the woman. About Emma? About all the people who had been hurt, silenced, or destroyed by the system he was trying to expose? Then his phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Marcus's heart sank as he read the message. "We know where your daughter goes to school. We know where your ex-wife works. Stop now, or they pay the price." Marcus's blood turned to ice. His hand shook so badly he almost dropped the phone. They were threatening Emma, his little girl, the one person in the world he would die to protect. He showed the message to Sarah. Her face hardened. "This is what they do. They find your weakness, and they exploit it. But Marcus, you need to know something. If you back down now, they won't stop. They'll still see you as a threat. Backing down doesn't guarantee your family's safety." "Then what do I do?" Marcus's voice broke. "How do I protect her?" Sarah made a call. Within an hour, she had arranged for private security to watch Emma's school and his ex-wife's workplace. She also contacted a lawyer who specialized in whistleblower protection. But Marcus knew these measures weren't foolproof. If they really wanted to hurt his family, they would find a way. That night, Marcus made the hardest phone call of his life. He called his ex-wife, Rebecca. "Marcus, it's 2 a.m. "What's wrong?" "Rebecca, I need you to listen to me very carefully. You and Emma are in danger. I can't explain everything right now, but I need you to take Emma and go somewhere safe. Maybe your sister's place in Scotland. Just for a few days." There was silence on the other end. Then Rebecca's voice, sharp and scared. "What did you do, Marcus?" "I did the right thing. But there are powerful people who don't want the truth to come out. Please, Rebecca, I'm begging you. Take Emma and go. I'll explain everything when this is over." Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Okay, we'll leave first thing in the morning. But Marcus, if anything happens to our daughter because of this, ... I know. Just please keep her safe." After he hung up, Marcus sat in the dark hotel room, his head in his hands. He felt like he was being torn apart. But he also knew there was no turning back now. The story was too big. The evidence was too damning. And too many people had already suffered. The next morning, Sarah walked into the room with coffee and a determined look on her face. "We're ready. David has verified everything. We're publishing tonight at 8 p.m. Every major news outlet will pick it up within hours. By tomorrow morning, the whole world will know." Marcus nodded. "And then what happens? Then all hell breaks loose. The palace will issue denials. They'll attack your character. They'll try to discredit the evidence. But we're ready for that. We have multiple sources, authenticated documents, expert testimonies. They can try to spin this, but they can't make it go away. At 7:55 p.m., Marcus, Sarah, and David sat in front of the laptop. Sarah's hand hovered over the publish button. She looked at Marcus one last time. This is it. Once we do this, there's no taking it back. Are you sure? Marcus thought about the woman who had died, about the guards who had disappeared, about the victims who had been silenced, about Emma and the world he wanted her to grow up in. I'm sure. Sarah clicked the button. The story went live. Within minutes, it was everywhere. Twitter exploded. News sites picked it up. Within an hour, it was trending worldwide. The headline read, "Royal Guard exposes decades of cover-ups. Explosive evidence reveals palace protection of Prince Andrew." Marcus watched the reactions pour in. Shock, outrage, disbelief, support. People calling him a hero. People calling him a traitor. But the story was out. The truth was out. At 10 p.m., the palace issued a statement. It was exactly what Sarah had predicted. They denied the allegations. They questioned Marcus's credibility. They called the documents fabricated. But the public wasn't buying it. The evidence was too strong. The story too detailed. By the next morning, protests had erupted outside Buckingham Palace. People demanding accountability, demanding justice. Other former palace employees began coming forward with their own stories. The dam had broken. 3 days later, Prince Andrew released a statement announcing he was stepping back from all royal duties indefinitely. 2 weeks after that, a formal investigation was launched by independent authorities. The palace's protection machine was crumbling. Marcus watched all of this unfold from a safe house. He couldn't go home yet. There were still threats, still dangers, but he had done what he set out to do. He had exposed the truth. 1 month after the story broke, Marcus finally saw Emma again. Rebecca brought her to a secure location where they could meet. Emma ran into his arms and Marcus held her tight, tears streaming down his face. "Daddy, are you a hero?" Emma asked, looking up at him with those bright, trusting eyes. Marcus smiled through his tears. "No, sweetheart. I'm just someone who tried to do the right thing. But the right thing is what heroes do," Emma said simply. And maybe she was right. Maybe ordinary people who stood up against impossible odds, who risked everything for the truth, maybe those were the real heroes. Marcus knew his life would never be the same. He had lost his job, his anonymity, his sense of safety, but he had gained something more important. He had shown his daughter that courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. As he held Emma close, Marcus thought about the woman who had given him the USB drive. He thought about her granddaughter, growing up in a world that was just a little bit more honest because of what they had done. The fight wasn't over. There would be legal battles ahead, more threats, more challenges. But the truth was out. And once the truth was out in the light, it was very hard to put it back in the dark. Marcus Wells. A simple guard who had spent 12 years in silence had changed everything. Not because he was powerful, not because he was fearless, but because when the moment came to choose between safety and truth, he chose truth. And sometimes that's all it takes to change the world.